Well, this is a bit more of an improv meeting. I'm not trying to pursue talking about more of the bigger projects because we still have a couple of the big ones open for discussion. So I figured we will continue to talk about those and then issue out our first attempt at doing our small remediation of different documentation that doesn't require groupthink, just one of us taking on the task. And then from there, I'll open it up to if anyone has anything interesting to talk about or a problem to bring to the attention of the group. And then we'll just close with, cool, have a good day. So specifically, last time we met, the website ScraperBot was brought up. We were talking about how we should be able to just automatically check all hyperlinks for 404 errors. And I believe who was it that brought up that they found that Sphinx does some kind of check for hyperlinks? Who was that?
I thought it was Ken. Am I right, Ken?
Yeah, I think I searched and found it, and I think I saw that
somebody actually put an issue in.
Yeah, somebody went and actually started doing it. That reminds me, I think they were suggesting making that part of CI, which seems like, I mean, in principle, that sounds good, but that's it seems like a lot of scraping to do on CI builds, at least on every CI build.
Since this is hyperlinks, it really doesn't need to be done on brand new pull requests, seeing as someone who just made something with a hyperlink in it should have pretty confidence that that's still a good link since they just made that. But this is definitely something that can be done for broad sweeps. So this is not something that needs to be done often, just periodically in case, as industry moves and some companies close or move their hyperlinks to other locations. In terms of it actually being used though, there was an issue created and you showed, 30, 50 hyperlinks that are either 404 dead or redirections. Do we feel like that was pretty comprehensive? Like it does the job fully?
Yeah, I thought so. One of the things I did notice, and I don't know if we need to go in and update the documentation or if there's some settings we can toggle, but there are certain just like fubaz.com type URLs, which is funny because example.com is literally defined in an RFC and is like example.com, .net, and .org are all three top-level domains that are guaranteed not to resolve to anywhere. And so those can be used in documentation. And so like that's something that we should probably push in the, document in our documentation about writing documentation. And then also probably actually update those that are just sample URLs. One of the things I do think I noticed is that I think for subdomains, it was actually trying to resolve that, which it shouldn't be. So I think that's a bug in the underlying library. But generally speaking, I think it did a really good job and was quite comprehensive. But there are some things that we just need to tweak, I think, whether it's in the documentation itself or the tool or filing bug reports against the tool.
Okay. We should definitely go ahead and make an issue, write down those sound like two separate things, where the subdomain problem and then documentation update for best case or
best practices.
Yeah, best practice. Thank you. Okay, then I'm going to consider that we should just use this and call that good for the hyperlink check issue. And we should either, again, I really don't think it needs to be ran on every single pull request, but we should, in contention with whoever has control at SaltStack, should set this up to be a checker that does it once a month or every 6 months, something long and like that, far and few in between, and have it auto make issues related to that.
So is our plan to run this soon so that we can then begin working on fixing the broken links, and that will maybe be one of our first tasks?
Someone did run it and they posted all the broken results that came up. My intention is that I'm actually going to use that list to be our first set of tasks for fixing on web pages for all of us, since it's pretty comprehensive. And
Did it create issues for them?
it did not create issues for them. I think
So we still have to do that? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was copy and pasted in. It's this link to everyone. There we go. It is he just copy and pasted all in. And so what I'm thinking is just everyone grab their chunk, because it seems to be split by web page, and you create your own issue and say that I'm working on that chunk. We'll leave this here as like the big thing, or I can, I guess, make a projects board and put all the issues in that. Either way will work. And I mean, there's a good 30 to 50 here for us to do, so that's fine. I didn't want to keep it in bulk like this though, because I'm willing to bet more than a couple of these in here aren't going to be simply putting in a new URL. It might be like literally the products no longer exist, therefore this web page needs to be either remapped, reworked, or deleted. So I'd prefer that on an individual basis for that reason.
So should we have this be a branch job? Because I feel like if we have it every 6 months, then it'll be forgotten about in 6 months, and then we'll always be behind. And
Yeah.
every PR seems excessive, but should we just have it be a branch job, and then anyone can just see either on a daily or the last merge what the status is?
Well, I think ideally it should just automatically create an issue and say, hey, these failed, if it runs periodically.
Yeah, I think we're talking about how it should run periodically, and
Yeah.
that's kind of we don't want it to run on every PR, but I don't think every 6 months is useful either. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how often.
I would say,
Weekly?
yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure what the right balance is. Part of me thinks like either at the beginning or towards the end of a release cycle might be a good amount of time, because we should be updating documentation between releases anyways. And towards the end of the release cycle, I feel more inclined to, because what that does is it says, oh, hey, we've got the best chance that these links haven't gone dead when we push our new documentation for the new version of SALT.
Right. An expansion off of this issue though, if we are using this checker, and again, if you want to run it on right before new release, which I think is a great idea, it's a great a way to benchmark it. There's two results here. One is the 404 ones and one is the redirects. I'm pretty sure we can, with a little bit of coding, have the redirects just automatically replace the link with the one that it's now giving. I still think that shouldn't be quite automatic. Like, you should do it, make the pull request, and then we have to confirm it, because that redirect could be a mistake in theory. For example, it could be sending it to a specific Python package, and then the redirect instead just goes to PyPI, not to that specific package, So then we should be able to just auto code that and then just have it be pull request reviewed by a human. The 404s obviously will still have to be just straight issues, because it doesn't know where to go from there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome though. I mean, I was expecting it to be that easy, like something would exist, but that's great. Pretty happy about that. So who needs to talk with what? Who needs to talk with who about doing that, adding that into into your guys' release cycle in terms of steps?
Wayne, you and I can probably take that on with Bryce and take that back to the core team and figure out where that lives and dies and works and
yeah, for sure.
I think there'd be two easiest ways to implement that is either have it be part of the regular Jenkins pipeline and have it run however often, or have Froda have it be a manual test. Because
as part of the release cycle, sure.
Yeah,
maybe even both.
Would require a lot of overhead to have something be different.
Sure, yeah. Those things I was thinking of as well, Bryce. And maybe we even do both. Runs sort of periodically and then a manual test as well. I'm not sure.
it should be very easy to add that to the manual
Yep.
tests and not much overhead, especially since what it should return is success, everything's fine.
Right. And if not, that we could put some automation around it to create some issues.
Okay, I will then consider this like no longer Docs working group specific. This is either for SaltStack or this is for the testing group. It might kind of be in the testing suite area, I don't know. So in that case, I think if there's any pieces that need to follow up with us, any issues, there should probably be on OpenSalt with some reference to this conversation.
Is all the things to actually run this test written up like a proof of concept? Because that would be nice to have.
Yeah, who is me? He's not here, right? MYI me.
I don't know.
Imran, I can't say his last name. Iqbal. Imran Iqbal. It says he's part of the SaltStack organizations.
Yeah, he's a contributor that we added to the org for one of the working groups.
Works with formulas a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Since he's the one that's already ran it, we should definitely have Bryce and Wayne link up with him, ask what exactly he did, and if he discovered any extra tweaks that really would help so that you guys don't have to rediscover that.
So it looks like, looking at this issue, it's just a
Command.
make target, and he's got that at the top of the issue. So it's just he's calling make link check, and then it's doing a Sphinx build -b link check -d under build /doc trees under build /link check. Yeah. So it's doing that. So it looks fairly straightforward as far as what the command actually is.
I just realized I'm not sure this this copy and paste you put in here, if that's showing which of the pages, documentation pages, that those links are being found in.
Yes, I think so. The line underneath has.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's like the opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and just write up a mass amount of issues specifically from this, and then everyone can just grab one. And then moving on with that, I thought about it and was wondering if we should go ahead and just create not on the documentation yet, but a best practices compilation of things. It was brought up that, like, for example, there's places where we say you can put configuration and lots of Jinja into Pillar, but everyone knows best practices that should just be for secrets, really. You shouldn't really do that. And there's a lot of that goes around. I've had to make corrections for clients that are using SaltStack all the time, where they're like, it says I can do it. You know, and it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I'm wondering if we should make a compilation somewhere, and then eventually we start using that to reference when we're like going through pages and be like, okay, this is mentioning Pillar. Does that conflict with any of the best practices? I've originally asked SaltStack before to like create that, like give us like what is SaltStack's best practices that they endorse. I didn't really get a response back, and I think that's because that's just too big of a question. And so I think it's easier for us to just go ahead and create one and then tell SaltStack to look over that, and obviously some of you are SaltStack employees, and give it the yes, I agree, or no, we should talk about that further. And that's easier for to get that kind of endorsement than it is to just blanketly ask for one.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be easier. We can help with that to try to make sure that gets through. That is kind of a big ask. It's probably like, what would probably happen is you'd ask somebody and they'll give you their opinion, but then it would just come back to Elisa and Ashley, and they'd be like, well.
So talk to those people and ask their opinion.
Yes, yeah. So I think that's a really great place for this group to work through that and kind of give some recommendations and show this is where we think that we can, have something much, much better here, and some best practices that we can kind of all get around.
Yeah. And then Bryce, I did look at that link that you sent me for your guys' build, just doing just literally a quick glance, not even doing a full read there. Could already tell I was going to be confused and have questions. So I think in the next, our next meeting, I will still ask you to do a presentation, and I'll try to like compile a list of, I don't understand. Can you explain?
Sounds good.
All right, cool. It's open now if anyone else wants to bring something to light or expand upon that's been brought before. That's literally all I had planned here.
Just to update, I looked and it appears that there's a config val in the Sphinx config file where you can set things to ignore, and I believe it's a regex. Yeah, so we should be able to say, hey, ignore anything that's .example.com.net or .org, and then it will just not check those links.
Okay. And then in terms of for Sphinx documentation, I've noticed two patterns that this is just more of a curiosity in people's opinions because it might be completely subjective. I've seen where either they put the hyperlink up in the wherever you're talking about, and then if you follow that hyperlink, it's actually at the very bottom is where they have that URL. And then I've also seen people put the URL with its hyperlink up in the text that it's part of. Does anyone have particular preference? I think it's easier to read when you're working on it if the hyperlink's at the bottom, but sometimes, I don't know, maybe that's too much of a pain.
Yeah, I have noticed that same thing. I don't know. It's I think as long as it's in a block, whether that block is right after the paragraph that it's in or the block is at the end of the file, either way seems to be okay for me.
In my experience,
kind of at the end of the block. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
In my experience, it's better to put it at the end, and it's been a while since I made that decision, so I'm trying to remember why. But I think it was just for like findability, because on any given page there might be stuff. It's like these pages are very long, so there might be the links.
So you're saying put the hyperlink not at the bottom of the page, but put the hyperlink at the bottom of whatever paragraph that it's
at the bottom of the page. Just like have a roundup of all of the hyperlinks at the bottom of the page, just for findability.
And that's how I do it when I'm doing Markdown, but with restructured text, it's a little bit less, like at least for me, because you can import stuff and include things anywhere. So it's kind of like, I don't know, but yeah, I don't have a strong preference.
Okay. Well, then we'll say that that's the best practice. Put it at the bottom, and then as we are going through pages and people are taking it upon themselves to look at them, we can make those transitions, and those should be pretty easy. I mean, if the hyperlink is already good, all they have to do is just copy and paste that down to the bottom, and remove it from inline wherever it was at. But yeah, hopefully that uniformity will make it just a little bit faster for navigation, for reading, and for adjusting them. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else?
I just thought of a question. Elisa, Ashley, do we have a style guide that we adhere to for documentation? I think we did for Enterprise.
We do for Enterprise, but I don't know if we have one for OpenSalt, and that would probably be beneficial for OpenSalt.
I've actually investigated this in the past, and there is a page in there that recommends using the IEEE style guide, which I don't agree is a good idea.
That's interesting.
Silently delete that. No one's looking.
So I mean, on the Enterprise side, we refer mostly to the Google Developer Style Guide, and I would strongly recommend adopting that for Open as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they were similar for sure. I think that's a great idea. I think that as we're looking at this, as we look at this sort of best practice thing, because where the links go on the page to me actually sounds more like a style guide thing. Well, this is just how we do it, not necessarily best practice. And I was like, wait, do we even have anything like that? And maybe so it's good to know that we do, even though I don't know that any of us really care for it. But I think that'd be nice to, so then as we look at this, we can then say, hey, we would like to align on how this works with the docs overall, and I think that'd be a great place to put that and start that conversation.
Yeah, some consistency would be nice.
Yeah,
I'll commit to researching that and figuring out what's there currently, and look into what it would be to build it out. So
cool.
Yeah. One of the things, since we're on the topic of consistency and documentation, that I have noticed that we are not consistent with is the way that our doc strings are in Python. Because there are two major styles I think that I've seen us use. One is the old like Sphinx style with the colon parameter type colon or whatever it is, and then the other one is more along the lines of the Google style doc strings. And I don't know that we actually have a recommendation in our existing style guide. I have a vague feeling that there may have been one, but it wasn't very clear, and obviously it's not followed.
Is there any technical reason why we need to pick one or the other? Like there's a problem that comes from that, or no?
Just consistency's sake. I mean, like, because it appears that most of the time they're rendered properly, but there are documents in the documentation where it's just like, this documentation is clearly wrong because of the way it's formatted. Like, where something should be bold and then there's an indented something, and it's not. It's like all indented or it's all bold, and like everything's screwy because the formatting wasn't done correctly. So by choosing one style and sticking with it, it makes it easier to spot those anomalies.
I sort of have a segue on that something I mentioned to Elisa and Alan earlier in the week to maybe bring up on this, which was just how we review doc strings in general, and how we can maybe, just speaking as support, I do literally see problems from customers where they're asking us about, they're maybe not specifically saying I couldn't figure out from the documentation what was going on, but I can tell by the questions they're asking that if the documentation formatting hadn't been completely borked, they might have figured this out for themselves. And so, you know, and I see pull requests going through, you know, we get a lot of non-native English contributors, which is obviously great, but I don't think it doesn't seem like there's a good necessarily review process for the docstring generated documentation. And obviously between the community and the core team, there's already lots of reviewing to be done. So I don't know what the best way to do this is. I mean, I'm just looking at what I'd written earlier in the week. I mean, is it potentially possible to say, these are the files that have changed? I'm not sure how well Sphinx runs in terms of generating a partial thing, or whether it really needs to go and build the whole tree in it.
We do actually run a full docs build, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we run the whole docs build, it would be awesome if we could say, these are the files that changed. Here's screenshots.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, here's screenshots of those doc strings so that people could, or those generated pages, so that they could actually be reviewable. Because I think that's probably the core of the problem, is that the generated doc strings are really not, it takes a big investment to actually review what those are really going to look like. And it's difficult to just, you have to be pretty skilled in practice to imagine what they are going to look like and pick out any weird things. Anyway, I think you get the gist of it.
No, I think the way I resolved that back when I was working on fixing doc strings and just documentation in general with open issues, is I was taking screenshots and saying, do you prefer A or B? And people would be like, I don't like either of them. And like, oh, okay. So yeah, I definitely kind of agree that, like, in a sense, when you're making you could almost say that when you're making even a pull request for something new or whatever, and it has docs, they need to take screenshots of the docs just so you can see what they look like. That's a bit manual, so I don't know if, you know, everyone would be like, no, I don't like that. But I understand what you're saying. If we find that it is, because there's not a best practice for this, we should pick one, adhere to it, and then but not say we need to fix everything to go to that. Instead, we fix it as it comes up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So instead of saying like all of these now need to be fixed right now because it's best practice, we'll just wait and see as we're fixing and doing that, we'll make the adjustment over. That way we're not overwhelming ourselves with, we have now 600 issues to fix because there's 600 pages they don't fit. That'll keep us from being overwhelmed. And, you know, and as people complain like, well, this isn't best practice, we'll be like, you want to fix it? You can. And so, yeah, let's do that. And do you guys, so it sounds like you guys have a preferred one. You said the Google Doc string one?
Personally, I like the Google Doc string just because it looks cleaner in the raw text form, but I don't think that we actually have one. I'm not sure what we have recommended in our style guide.
Does anybody have their own personal opinion of whether to use the Google Docs one or the Sphinx one, or they don't care? Take the consensus now.
I personally am not someone who contributes to doc strings, but if we are interested in generally adopting the Google Developer Style Guide, maybe it would make sense to go more with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else against using the Google Doc string method? No? Then I say that we just softly adopt that, and then unless someone deeper inside of SaltStack or I guess the community at large rejects it, then we'll just consider that like softly what we are going to do as the best case. And at some point we'll write it up and then like affirm that to the community.
I think that sounds good. Ashley, do you know what the developers are using on Enterprise? If they're using Google or not?
I don't know, but this is a good thing to look into.
It's probably something to check, yeah.
Yeah, good to check on and see if we can get some alignment between the two.
Yeah.
Because they're probably using both. That would I would assume.
Yeah.
The colon thing that you described sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, they might be.
I'm pretty sure I've seen both, so yeah.
I mean, my evil plot at some point is to start incorporating enterprise documentation into OpenSalt. So if this helps push that agenda, then I'm happy to continue to scream for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have consistency across all of it. So I mean,
much.
Yeah.
I just wondered if anybody knew because I'm pretty sure that it was both. Yeah, I love it. Consistency's great.
If you guys then want to internally figure that out and then affirm like, yeah, this is what's going on in the next meeting, we should do that.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I will look into that.
All right. Thank you. I think that's it. Anybody else got anything they want to pipe up about?
I have a question about when we hope to meet next.
I am preferring 2 weeks at the moment because
Okay.
I know that month is normal. Month span is normal, but we're kind of in that moment where just in general, for me personally, and probably for a few of you, I need a little bit of time to work to get something ready for the next meeting. I don't need a full month. I think once a lot of stuff is more structurally in place and like I have a good grasp and everyone else has a good grasp of what Bryce already knows, then we might be able to transition to a month because then we can just give ourselves multiple tasks to do before we meet again because we feel that we're not going to get lost or be in a vacuum at that point. So I would say in another 2 weeks we meet again. Bryce will probably present that on that one. We will talk about that, get clarifications, give the community another couple of weeks to ask questions if they have bothered to watch the video, if they're trying to understand it. And yes, Cassandra?
Oh, would you want to, at one of the open hours then, talk about some of this stuff?
When is the open hours?
The open hours are right before this meeting.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I'm personally not opposed to attending and doing that. Yeah, I guess you're assuming specifically about the structure for documentation.
Well, yeah. So you said that you wanted to like meet in 2 weeks, and then in another 2, like give the community some time to look over some of the things that you're proposing. So maybe like 3 weeks from now, you can present that, or just open a discussion about that in the open hour.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Cool. All right. What date is that going to be?
All right. unless someone is going to take it upon themselves to create the issue and grab that from that giant bulk issue that was given from Sphinx documentation, give me until Monday to go ahead and break that out and segment it out into proper issues.
Thanks
Again,
for doing that, Alan. When you're done with that, will you just kind of ping the documentation channel and let us know when you're finished with that task?
Yeah, and then I will still adhering to any real issues are going to be put on OpenSalt's repository. I'll go ahead and make all of those issues on OpenSalt and ping them to our group. So Sage, if you want to make sure to tell the SaltStack personnel in charge of that, like, hey, don't touch those. That's fine. Like, I know there's like 50 here now, but don't worry. So, all right.
Okay, and then do you want me to set this meeting on a recurrence for every other week right now, or how do you want me to?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Cool. I will set it every other week. My plan is I'm posting all the work group meetings on Friday afternoons. They'll be live on Saturdays.
Okay, sounds good. I enjoyed the conversation, guys. Is there any other last minute topics before we adjourn? All right. Well, then you all have a great day and stay safe.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, Alan. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.